What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant smiles as he says Canelo Alvarez is 1-3 against Mayweather, Lara, and Golovkin. The IBF super middleweight champion Caleb Plant believes Mexican superstar Saul Canelo Alvarez should have a few more losses on his record. Last Saturday night at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Canelo stopped unbeaten Billy Joe Saunders in 8 rounds to unify the WBA, the WBO, and the WBC super middleweight titles. During the 8th round, Canelo fractured the orbital bone of Saunders' right eye, which forced the British boxer's corner to stop the fight. Canelo is now on his way to fight Caleb Plant, as we know. And Caleb Plant had this to say. He says he's been fighting, the UK level guys, European type guys. And that's cool. But as far as him fighting the top, Floyd, Lara, Triple G, he's 1-3. Plant said. So at the end of the day, he's just a man, and he's looked human in some of the bigger fights as well. As far as what he did to Billy and the fashion that he won, that's scarring me or making me more nervous or anything like that. That's not the case. Those are the words of Caleb Plant. And it seems like Caleb Plant is putting it on thick, but Caleb Plant I think he's a straight shooter. I know he talks certain things, but you can tell when he's just casually speaking versus capping, because, like the Mike Lees, he capped a lot of the Mike Lees, right? So, all eyes are on Canelo, especially Caleb Plant, and there's a reason why, because he is the last puzzle piece. He does have that last kingdom championship opportunity, so to speak. So, it makes sense for him to talk about Canelo now, to analyze his career. And to counterpunch Caleb Plant, he's right. We all know that. Hashtag Canelo on points, people. That's real. It's real for a reason, because Canelo can't lose on the scorecards. I'm just curious to know how those scorecards would have went, and Billy Joe Saunders wouldn't have got busted in that eye like that. And it would have went, and Billy Joe continued to rack up points and make it that much interesting how those scorecards would reflect the actual fight. But the good thing is that it was stopped and we didn't have to worry about it. But you can only wonder at the end of the day. Going back to what Caleb's saying, about the Lara fight, he didn't even land 100 punches in that whole fight. That's fact. He landed 84 punches. In the Golovkin fight, Golovkin outlanded him by like over 100 punches, and forced him to go back. And even though he used the style to box and move at times, he was still being outworked and out-hustled. And then they gave it a draw. And then the draw represented, you really won, Golovkin, but we're going to let you keep your belts because you were the champion at that weight class, and Golovkin should have took his ass on. Because when he got in there and Canelo improved, because, look, Canelo, not only was that his first time rematching someone, so, obviously you're going to get better at fighting a person the second time, so he did better, so he got a better result now, didn't he? Okay, the Floyd fight, even though Floyd schooled Canelo still had a weird majority decision scorecard with CJ Ross seeing that still half and half, 114 to 114. So yes, he's supposed to, and that was the actual loss that they actually gave him. Okay, because I think the fix was always in from Golden Boy being the powerhouse that they used to be, along with Canelo Alvarez riding that promotional wave, out with Golden Boy. I think they had a lot of influence on a lot of scorecards. So Caleb Plant's right about that, So it's easier psychologically to have that mindset if I'm Caleb Plant, because it's like, he is a man. He does look normal in certain fights, or bad, or average. You look at the Golovkin fight, he did a good job. He's Canelo at the end of the day. He's great. He's a great counterpuncher. But he did get outworked by Golovkin. An older Golovkin, mind you. Like, what was he, 36? 35? He's 39, so he was 35. That's 4 years ago. Okay? So, that's still a 35-year-old Golovkin taking on, a 28, 29-year-old Canelo at the time? So, you have to let things be what it is. And what it is was Lara, he swung, he missed, he looked bad. A lot of those, he was frustrated, as you can tell. He did all types of antics in there. So yeah, he's true. So if I'm Caleb Plant, I would be looking more for that mindset. However, don't take your mind off the ball. Yes, those opponents, Mayweather, Lara, Golovkin, yes, those guys were difficult for Canelo. But don't get it twisted. Canelo is one bad mother sucker, and he can fight. Okay, so I think Caleb, shouldn't, be too carried away with Canelo of old, because those fights are already been written. Okay, but how they were written weren't accurate. So I get what Caleb's saying, but at the same time, I understand Caleb like, yo, this guy's been beaten 3 times. If you look for closer into it, what is he saying? He's saying, well, these guys could rob me like they robbed Lara and Golovkin. So, it's one of those things. So that, like, as he smiles, maybe there was a little sarcasm and a little facetiousness in there with Caleb Plant saying that. But I mean, he was telling the truth, right? So that could be him, just, psychologically preparing himself like, look, I'm just as good as fighter as these guys, and I'm a pure boxer like a lot of those guys were, minus Golovkin, because Golovkin is a guy that can box, but he likes to brawl at times. But he's a very good boxer. Look what he did to David Lemieux with just a jab, okay? So the guy can box, and Canelo himself, because he landed so many more jabs than Canelo did. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Caleb Plant saying that Canelo Alvarez should be 1-3 with his fights against Lara, Golovkin, and Mayweather. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch.